free country here. We don't need somebody like Trudeau out there telling you you have to take it or else, and calling us names. We're a free country here. Pardon me?
What do you want to accomplish by being here today?
I would like to end the mandates. I would like to end the mandates. You know, if you want to take a vaccine or whatever you want to call it, go ahead. But you can't force me to, okay? I don't...
People on horseback trotted down a Canadian highway to support truck drivers and the farmers that followed suit earlier this week. According to police, hundreds demonstrated in Toronto on Saturday and about 5,000 people gathered in Ottawa. The Freedom Convoy has been going strong for about a week and police say is being funded in part with sympathizers in the United States. The Freedom Convoy launched after the Department of Homeland Security mandated that all people crossing the borders into the United States must show proof of vaccination.
I have in my life on several occasions made fun of Canada. I have in my life on several occasions ragged on Canada. I can't do that anymore, and the reason why is because Canada figured out an actual way to peacefully protest in a way that would actually net them what it is that they want. And of course, guys, I'm talking about the Freedom Convoy. I'm talking about the truckers in Canada and their actual peaceful protest that's going on right now. By the way, this entire situation is absolutely bonkers. It's absolutely crazy if you actually know the meat of everything that's going on. Now, before we dive into this topic, guys, I want to kind of give you guys a bit of a background of what's going on. You see, initially, I did not have any actual faith in this actual protest because judging by the 2021 Canadian election results, I was like, okay, maybe Canada likes the idea of having mask mandates. Maybe they like all this crap that's going on. But then I actually looked into how bad it was. You see, Canada has got a joke of a prime minister, Justin Trudeau. I like to call him Prime Minister Blackface, Prime Minister Turd. The emperor has no clothes, and I'll explain why in this video. Now, guys, this video is going to be a relatively long one, probably about 15 to 20 minutes, so make sure you guys try to stick around for the rest. I'll try to make it as interesting as I can. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So in Canada, what they're dealing with is not only mask mandates, not only vaccine mandates, they're dealing with high amounts of unemployment as a result of it. The price of everything is going up. They got supply chain shortages. Also in Canada, they've got actual, people are actually, when they're in quarantine, are actually being surveilled. They're dealing with curfews. Things are a lot worse in Canada than what they are here, and I did not realize that. And now, of course, now that I've seen that, I'm here to kind of make a bit of a mea culpa and give them their props for actually pulling this off. Now, of course, this protest started not only with the conditions going on in Canada, but there was an entire ordeal that went on a while back where they had a law saying that truckers had to actually quarantine once they crossed the border and once they got back across into Canada. And of course, this type of stuff right here helps lead to the supply chain shortage because product's not getting out the way it needs to be. So a lot of times these products, when you look at the shelves and you see that they're empty, a lot of it's because a lot of product is kind of behind. It's because of monotonous bull crap like this right here. Now, guys, before we really truly dive into this topic, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys share the video. Sign off in the comment section. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get to 500 subscribers. Make sure you guys hit the notification bell. Leave a comment in the comments. I want to get you guys' thoughts. And let's go ahead and dive into this. So also with everything that's going on with surveillance and all the BS mandates and all the freedoms being taken away, there was this whole thing in Quebec where they floated around the idea of a tax. This tax, of course, would be levied on you if you did not get the jab. That, in my opinion, is about as much of a human rights violation as you can get without actually being one. But of course, the thing that really bothers people the most, the thing that quite frankly has gotten me sort of laughing, is the media's reaction to all this. Let's go ahead and kind of roll this montage of exactly how our media is treating this.
Canadian government for an additional 1,800 police officers to deal with the protests. The demonstrations creating a traffic jam in the U.S. even after truckers temporarily shut down a bridge that connects Detroit with Canada. And Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is ramping up his criticisms, even comparing them to Nazis.
Nice. The people of Ottawa don't deserve to be harassed in their own neighborhoods. They don't deserve to be confronted with the inherent violence of a swastika flying on a street corner, or a Confederate flag, or the insults and jeers just because they're wearing a mask.
And some media outlets using terms like sedition and threat to democracy to describe the protest.
Just think of the language. I know it sounds familiar to you, right? A threat to democracy, an insurrection, sedition.
We've heard it called a nationwide insurrection.
The movement is being called an insurrection by some, paralyzing the Canadian capital.
Those with the so-called Freedom Convoy say they're staying put.
It's a cult.
It's the same lines of attack as always. These people are in a cult. There's a Nazi flag out there, so all these people were Nazis. Granted, it was one flag that was probably waved by a trucker who probably was an actual Nazi, unlike the other freedom-loving truckers. There's a Gadsden flag out there, which I'm guessing is just some Canadian saying, look, don't tread on me. Somehow or another, a Confederate flag got out there. I don't know how the hell that happened. But, I mean, this whole entire thing could have been avoided if, and by the way, I'm kind of glad it wasn't avoided because, like I said, Canada showed the United States how to actually protest. I will dive further into that topic a little bit later on this video because it's going to set up for another video that's going to come out later on this week. But back on topic here. So Trudeau's first impression or first idea of this entire ordeal was to go out and give a speech and do this crap right here.
The way through this pandemic is by getting everyone vaccinated. And the overwhelming majority, close to 90% of Canadians, have done exactly that. The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values.
Aussi des gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination.
Qui sont extrémistes.
Qui croient pas dans la science, qui sont souvent misogynes, souvent racistes aussi. C'est un petit groupe, mais qui prend de la place. Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays. Est-ce qu'on tolère?
Same line as always. Racist, xenophobic, all that stuff. By the way, Justin Trudeau is like quadruple vaccinated, but yet somehow or another he got COVID. Also, something else too is that after he got COVID, he chose to flee. Okay, leaders that flee are typically not respected. Okay, I've always said that Justin Trudeau was an absolute joke. He's an absolute joke of a human being. Just look at his face. I mean, the guy looks like an absolute putz. I mean, come on, man. This guy's an absolute joke. But let's also think about some of the other stuff that they have done. Trudeau has gotten the Ottawa police involved. Now they're cutting off the fuel. There was also this story out there saying that truckers apparently stole food from a homeless shelter or some crazy crap like that. I mean, but then again, though, that story got debunked. Come to find out what happened was that people at the homeless shelter gave the truckers food because they had an actual abundance of food. You guys see how our media operates. It sensationalizes everything and doesn't exactly tell the truth. But then there was this whole GoFundMe ordeal. Now, guys, I came across this right here today on Steven Crowder. I'm going to go ahead and roll this. Make sure you guys leave a comment and tell me what you guys think on this right here. I'll be on the other side of this right here, but make sure you guys pay attention to this.
United States. It has been mirrored in the United States. There's this leaked Zoom call. I want to show this before we bring him on. It revealed that the mayor of Ottawa was responsible for the GoFundMe of the Freedom Convoy truckers in Canada, $10 million being pulled down. Here's the video.
We have, through the efforts of Deputy Bell, Christiane Hinault, the mayor and his staff, we've been able to shut down the GoFunding program. That's a temporary reprieve because the funds are already moving in different directions. We are now going after supply and fuel coming into the area through investigations and intelligence operations and interdictions, all of which were underway yesterday, fully underway.
So cutting off the funds for the protests. By the way, a lot of these funds were coming from the United States. Cutting off the fuel. Now, the protesters came up with a very good way of handling this. You see, so it's somewhat of an I am Spartacus moment. They're going to go out there with actual fuel tanks, actual gas cans and whatnot. So that way the cops are forced to have one more tedious task, which is to check every single gas can. Good idea, in my opinion. It's just more and more stuff to aggravate the cops. By the way, there's been videos circulating around. I didn't provide them in this video because YouTube has found a way to levy a strike anytime you show anything that shows anything that looks somewhat violent. Of course, there's this video of an 80-year-old man getting arrested by the police officers. Just a very, very small old man. It's like he isn't even causing any problems. And yet the cops are about to lose their minds, about to lose their cool. Once again, the public is turning on the police departments because the police are being used improperly. The police are being used to actually enforce this Nazi edict. Also, something else too, the military has decided not to get involved in Canada. All right. Now, if the military gets involved, it's going to be a black eye, not only just on the protest. It's not just going to be bad for the protesters, which, by the way, I don't think the Canadian military is going to get involved. Let's pray they don't. But it's going to be a very, very big black eye for Justin Trudeau. As I'm about to explain to you guys here in a second, Justin Trudeau suffers from, I'm a great big giant weenie, but I think I'm actually big and bad, even though, let's put it this way here. He thinks his powerful leader, he thinks his leadership is all buff and whatnot, but it's really just biff. I came across this clip the other night from Timcast IRL to kind of help explain the personality of someone like Justin Trudeau. Of course, this was Seamus Coughlin, and this right here was Peter Schweitzer. They were on Timcast, and they kind of spoke about this issue and kind of spoke about Trudeau. And I'm going to give you guys my thoughts in a second and go ahead and end this video. Let's go ahead and roll this.
And I want to pose to everybody is when Justin Trudeau talks about these truckers, do you think he actually knows any? Do you think Justin Trudeau has anyone in his life who does that professionally? And I see it as a problem, not necessarily of income inequality, but of economic stratification. So in the past, income inequality existed, but you were hanging out with people who were in different income brackets. You knew farmers, you knew plumbers, you knew people who were in the working class, even if you had an accounting job. And a lot of that was the community that was built up at your church, and I can testify to that as well. At my church and in my social group, we're fortunate enough to have all sorts of people from different economic brackets because we're focused on a larger mission. But nowadays, people really gravitate towards their own in-group with respect to wealth, and then they sort of pat themselves on the back because they think their particular in-group, because it's left-leaning, represents the views of the working class. But then when they hear what actual working class people have to say, they lose their minds. So I think at the end of the day, a question that you need to ask yourself about any political leader is this a person who would fit in better with like Walmart shoppers or Whole Foods shoppers? And Justin Trudeau is not going to fit in with a group of people who live normal lives. To so many of these woke left-wing people, first of all, having those views is almost certainly an indicator that you spend most of your time with really wealthy people.
Yeah.
And secondarily, if you do hold those views, generally when you're dealing with a working class person, it's because you're telling them what to do. And they have to because it's their job. And so I think that's a big part of the reason why they're completely unwilling to negotiate. Because from their perspective, they always get to tell people in this bracket what to do and they obey. So when they stand up for themselves, they can't stand it. And it's not just that they can't stand it, they can't even comprehend it. It has to be racism. They have to put it in this box of some sort of bigotry because that's the only way they know how to answer.
A quote in the book I have, because the Trudeau family has this long history of relationship with the Chinese government. And there's this amazing question that Justin Trudeau was asked in 2012. He's a member of parliament. And he's asked, is there anybody on the world stage that you as a political figure sort of really admire, some country in the world? And he doesn't say the United States. He doesn't say Great Britain. He says China.
Wow.
He says, I admire China. And they ask, why do you admire China? And his answer to your point, Seamus, says, well, if you're the leader of China, you can just get shit done. You can get things done. Wow. It's efficient. And he talks about climate change. And he says, you don't have to debate all these things. You just get things done.
Right.
There's a certain efficiency to a dictatorship. And that's attractive to Justin Trudeau. And there's other people that say the same thing. But Trudeau, it's so interesting to me because it's exactly what you guys were saying earlier, that he doesn't have a connection. People become just these objects you move around on the chessboard, right? If you don't have a connection with them, if you don't know truckers, if you don't know farmers, they're things to be moved around on a chessboard. And that's the mentality of a dictator.
Exactly. And I apologize if I was a little snide to you in my reply to you sort of asking if Trudeau was a servant. But I also think that it's so telling that when Trudeau is looking at communist China, the person he empathizes with is the dictator, the person in control.
Right.
Like he doesn't look at communist China
right.
and think about the people living there and how horrible that would be. He immediately associates himself with the communist dictator. That's
right.
very telling.
Right.
How that doesn't end a political career, I will never know.
I like how...
For the record, guys, and I've never actually found a good way of getting this out, but the description that Coughlin that Seamus gave right then about Trudeau not being able to relate, That has sort of always been the mindset that I think most woke lefties have. You see, most woke lefties live in suburbs. Most woke lefties live in these rich areas. Most of these woke lefties are actually quite racist themselves. You see, you got to ask yourself a question. How many people of color actually live in these wealthy suburbs? And when they do move into these suburbs, the wealthy white people just leave and go find another one. Or they go out into an actual area, it's like a castle. That's who these woke lefties are. They don't actually speak to people on the ground. They don't actually talk to people. They don't actually socialize with anyone. They kind of sort of live in a bubble, and these right here are the people who are actually making the decisions in Canada and are sort of making the decisions here in the United States. You see, the reason why I think this freedom convoy is so effective is because you're telling people in cities you can't live without us. We're the ones who control the food. We're the ones who bring it to you. We're the ones who are in charge of the supply. Do you guys see what I'm saying? And Trudeau does not have the single inkling in the back of his mind to say, hey, look, man, let's come to a compromise or something like that. Which, by the way, guys, like I said, I'm glad no compromise has been reached because Canada is showing us how to properly do this. You see, if something happened like this right here in the United States, a bunch of woke little lefties would run inside, they'd scream, they'd holler, they'd have a bitch fit or whatever. They would do their normal thing, but then they would realize that, hey, look, we can't live without farmers, but then again, though, they're also going to hate people like myself, people who are working class, for not giving it to them, and of course for actually sort of giving them a slap on the wrist. By the way, guys, that video I wanted to do was a video on Ron Perlman and his recent comments about red states and blue states separating. But just, as you guys can see, I'm kind of setting that video up using this video here as well because it's very, very relevant. People like Justin Trudeau have a giant fart in their brain, okay? They think that they got all this power and whatnot, that people love them or whatnot, but in reality, people really and truly don't like them. They actually despise him because of his inability to listen, and they know that, especially after seeing him get COVID, then turn right back around and run like a little bitch, they realize he's not to be respected. You see, my feeling is this here. This entire ordeal is going to go on for a little bit longer. Trudeau is eventually going to have to capitulate to a certain degree or give some type of compromise. But then again, the truckers may not want to because he's called them racist. He's called them insurrectionists. He's called them Nazis. You see what I'm saying? He's done all that crap right there and he's pissed these people off. Do you think it's possible that Trudeau could do like Louis XVI and actually leave the country? He's basically a king without a country. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Do you guys think it's possible that Trudeau has now not just lost the country, but also lost credibility on the worldwide stage? By the way, our president here is not very, very credible himself. I mean, I'm not going to get into that topic right now, but I know this is having an effect because, bro, you got 4 Democrat governors right now that are trying to drop the mask mandates. You got 4 Democrat governors right now who are saying, look, we don't believe in the forced vaccination crap anymore. Of course, they're doing this because they saw Glenn Youngkin get his ass completely beaten. I mean, they saw Glenn Youngkin win his election in 2021. They saw Virginia completely flip back to Republican governor this past year, and they're starting to see that this type of crap does not work. Also, there's something else, too, I think is going on, which, by the way, I'll bring up in another video at a later topic. But here's the thing. Trudeau has this mindset that he is all-powerful and that everybody loves him and that he can do whatever the hell he wants because he's got that dictatorship mindset. As you guys heard, he empathized more with President Xi. He empathized more with China and their system of government because he's actually a communist in real life. He empathized with that right there. He comes from the wealthy suburbs. He comes from this wealthy elite background. So therefore, he's not around actual everyday working people. He's not around the actual working class. He expects the working class to just up and do. So when the working class basically says, fuck you, he gets pissed off. He doesn't know how to comprehend this. By the way, guys, I've been around a lot of lefties I've seen some lefties in my life who, by the way, if you fight back not one bit against their stupidity, they flip out and lose their actual minds. This is why I'm saying that the greatest conniption is only yet to come out of our media. And don't worry, I will be here because it will be glorious and will be absolutely hilarious to watch. Kudos to Canada, guys. John Claymore, if you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.
Cinema.